If 2023 was the year British politics got stuck in traffic, 24 should be the year it gets back on track. At some point in the next 12 months, the UK is expected to hold an election that some argue is long overdue. Not constitutionally overdue. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is not obliged to call an election until December 17th in this year, exactly 5 years after the last election. Overdue in the sense that the mandate of the incumbent Conservative government, won in 2019 with Boris Johnson's optimistic pre-COVID, post-Brexit program, belongs in another decade. And the UK is indeed going through a difficult period now. There is a cost of living crisis. Inflation and interest rates are very high compared to other times in the last decade. Public services, already struggling to keep up with demand, have been further strained by rising costs and strikes, leading to longer wait times for hospital treatment. There is a lack of affordable housing as well, and frequent strikes disrupt rail services. And all of this is happening at a time when the tax burden is historically high. Sunak inherited many of these problems when he took over from Liz Truss in October 2022. Since taking office, Sunak's primary aim has been to steady the ship after his two predecessors, Truss and Johnson, led governments so chaotic that they were both forced out as Conservative poll numbers plummeted. Sunak has since done his best to patch the hole in his sinking ship. But mostly, he and his government look like they are stuck between a rock and a hard place. Politically, Sunak is in an awkward position. The biggest threat to his authority comes from the right of his own party, both within the party and among right-wing voters. And their main concerns include immigration, and net immigration for 22 was upgraded by the Office for National Statistics to a record high of 745,000 in November. That's also issues of the so-called culture war and a perceived betrayal of the 2016 Brexit vote. And many in his party blame him for the political assassination of Johnson. Sunak served as Johnson's chancellor, that's the finance minister, from February 2020 to July 22, and he was a key part of Johnson's crisis government during the COVID-19 pandemic and was at times praised for the financial support he gave to businesses and individuals during the most difficult times of lockdown. However, the overlapping scandals in Johnson's government, from breaking his own COVID rules to appointing a key ally known for sexual harassment, made Johnson too dangerous for Sunak, so he resigned in July 22. And Sunak's resignation, which was followed by a series of other resignations, was seen by very committed allies of Johnson as a decisive moment in Johnson's downfall. They have never forgiven Sunak for his betrayal. Johnson's departure from office led to an acute split in the Conservative Party. Johnson is widely seen as the architect and trigger of Brexit, making him a champion of the Conservative right. Although Sunak is to the right of Johnson in many respects, his perceived betrayal means loyal Johnson supporters will never trust him. And this is a headache for Sunak, as he must simultaneously appease the right wing in the party with red meat politics and present himself to the wider public as the anti-Johnson, a sensible, calm, technocratic leader who will stabilize the country in difficult times. Sunak has refused to cut taxes and foster friendlier relations with the European Union, unpopular with the right wing in his party, while simultaneously pushing back on green policies and being vocal on culture war issues such as immigration and trans rights. His impossible balancing act is perhaps best illustrated by two decisions he made this fall. In October, Sunak scrapped HS2, that's a high-speed rail project to connect northern and southern England that had been approved under former Conservative Prime Minister David Cameron. And this decision was made to appease some members of the right wing of the party who saw it as an unnecessary waste of money that Cameron should never have introduced. Weeks later, Cameron, a liberal reformer who had led the anti-Brexit campaign, was appointed Sunak's new foreign secretary, to the dismay of many on the right wing in the party. An unkind headline in the Conservative-supporting Daily Telegraph newspaper recently read, "David Cameron's return has put the pro-EU, anti-Israel blob back in charge." Well, it's not just right-wing media commentators who are publicly attacking Sunak and his government. Johnson himself recently started a weekly column in the Daily Mail newspaper, throwing grenades, so to speak, at his successor. An ardent Brexiteer, Nigel Farage, has a daily TV show where he rages about immigration and Brexit. One of Johnson's key allies, former Cabinet Minister Nadine Dorries, has written a book about the apparent plot to impeach Johnson, in which she claims Sunak played a major role. Even Sunak's allies see the disastrous poll numbers and think the game could be over. Over the past 12 months, several Conservative MPs, activists and party members have, for example, told CNN that they expect defeat in the next election. And here we come back to the election and the fact that it's long overdue. All of these problems I described can be classified in some way under party management. Much of what Sunak and his government are talking about seems to be aimed at a very small audience of Conservative MPs and party members. One often has the feeling that niche issues determine political events in a country that has bigger and more important things to worry about. And for all the energy and even the moderate successes of Sunak's time in office so far, the polls are little changed, with the Conservatives still trailing the opposition Labour Party by double digits. And this begs the question, why is Sunak, the third Conservative Prime Minister since the last election, waiting to let the public have their say? Allies of the Prime Minister point out that the UK does not elect heads of government, but rather MPs whose parties can form governments. Parliaments then generally have 5 years to begin governing. But a lot has happened in the last 5 years, and with the best will in the world, it cannot be said that Johnson's 2019 manifesto is the basis on which Sunak is currently governing. And meanwhile, the Conservative Party is still responsible for public services for 66 million people. As might be expected, the opposition Labour Party believes this obsession with infighting is irresponsible. A shadow cabinet minister told CNN, "You really feel like your MPs have given up, so many of them don't even get into parliament anymore. How can they seriously claim that they are running the country in the interest of the people?" A likely reason for the delay is that Sunak is waiting to see if his poll numbers improve. The moderate Conservatives who support Sunak support this, even if they believe they will lose the next election. At this point, I just want us to hang in there so we don't completely collapse in the next election. The worst thing would be if we were crushed and the hardest elements of the right took over the party. That's what a senior Conservative told CNN. Sunak has every right to hold out until the last minute. Who knows, maybe he can even turn his poll numbers around and claim an unlikely victory. No matter when it happens or how it ends, it feels like Groundhog Day in the UK, as the Conservative Party is once again in turmoil. There is an argument to be made that taking a break from the Brexit, COVID and Johnson roller coaster is a good thing indeed. But 2019 really feels like a long time, and it's hard to find anyone who can make a coherent argument that the public should be denied a say in how they are governed for very much longer. And if you want to know more, the next video is right here in the end screen. I'll see you there. I'll be back.